where we had a good turnout last week on Friday, and I hope you find benefit. If you can, make sure that you keep your audio mute. That way we don't pick up background noises. If you have any questions, on the bottom screen, make sure on the bottom of your screen, you block off mute. And then on the top right, it'll say people and then chat. If you click on chat, you can be able to add your questions, or if you want to put comment, concerns or kudos, whatever you want to do, please use the chat. If you're going to post a question, please make sure that that question has not been raised already, so that way we can get through the question as quickly as possible. There'll be probably 2 points that I will offer open to the floor for any questions you have, and I'll answer. Some of them I may park it into the end because I may cover that topic at a later point of the presentation. So let me quickly share my presentation and we'll get started. Right now. While you are online, please make sure you do not click present now. That is for me to show you what I've got. And hopefully we can get the show on the road. Here we go. Okay. If I can have one person to chime in on the chat, if you are able to see my screen, just say yes or give me a thumbs up, and we should be good to go. Awesome. Thank you, Annette. All right, so today's session is really a briefing about where we've been with the national team and the elite select team. It's kind of taking a quick snapshot of what's happened in the past and where we're going, where we're at now, based on your surveys and what can be expected down the road. But I want to give you a couple pointers. What I call, instead of GFA law of the game, is going to be GFA law of the meeting. Make sure your audio is mute, and that can be pressed on the bottom of the screen. If you have a question, please post it on the upper right-hand corner. And from that point, if you're going to post a question, make sure it's not asked already. We hope that whatever information we provide to you will be very informative. It will get you more comfortable and make sure that we're ready to take on to the next phase. But keep in mind that whatever I present today, because we're under the pandemic mode, everything is subject to change. So what you hear today, there might be a quick change, and we will try to keep the communication open with everybody as we progress. The overview, what we're going to cover is, some of you are not aware of some of the personnel that we brought on board to make sure that we can launch our elite select team and our national team coaching staff. So I'm going to highlight what that org chart looks like from top down and what has taken place in the month of June. And next, talking about the strengths and areas to improve, giving a little statistic surveys that we've collected from each and every one of you. Keep in mind that we not only did the survey with the player parent, but we did it with the coaches and we did it with the GFA staff, because we wanted to make sure that we get all kinds of flavors coming from a safety point of view, work point of view, and the approach. So I think you'll find this interesting. Moving from there, we're going to do a quick summary, which is what I will call the tip, pointers, and reminders. And that to kind of have a recap of everything that we've got going on. Then the most exciting thing is what's happening in July. I will be presenting to you a calendar and to kind of show some information that might be interesting for the parents and the players alike. The last part is the communication tools. We've been experiencing some challenges and some difficulties in the past month trying to start up again due to disconnected communication or incorrect information, or we're not really reaching out to the group that we need to reach out. So we're going to present how the flow chart will work when we send out information and how The flow chart will work if you send in your information, your questions or your concerns and so forth. So hopefully this will help everybody out along the way. So we're going to start with the technical administration as far as who is in the technical administration overseeing all of the elite and the national teams. So as many of you know, we have the technical director, Sang-Hoon Kim, or we call him Coach Kim. He oversees the entire operation on the technical aspect, and he's being supported by Ross Awa, who is the assistant technical director. And the administrator who's been channeling all of the communication is China Ramirez. She's our technical administrator. Then we go to the elite and the national team coaching staff on the women's side. And this is the org chart that starts with the elite group. I'm pleased to announce that we got Kimberly back on board from being off island caring for her mother. And she is being supported by Ralph Awa and Ashley Bessiger as an assistant coach. We have goalkeeper coach Ross Awa and Kaliko Barron, and the equipment manager is Thomas Castro. Up on the upper right-hand corner, we have Pavel and Koharu, who's been working jointly to focus on high performances, which is really understanding where each of our athletes are physically and their flexibility, their strength, power, all of that. And you're going to see them on almost every single training session that we have, in making sure that when we progress throughout the training, that they are getting in shape and getting fit without having any injury. Because obviously most of us have been complacent for the last 3 months, and we want to make sure that we're not jumping back too quick and have injury to where they're going to have to sit out again. Going to the U17, we have Kimberly Sherman as the head coach, support Bessiger and Ralph Awa. And Castro is our goalkeeper coach, and as well as the equipment manager. Moving to the Masakata and the under 20, which we have them combined right now, and that is head coach with Coach Kim, supported by the assistant coach of Ross Awa, Derek Crew, goalkeeper coach Kaliko, and the equipment manager is Thomas Castro. And moving on to the men's program, for the elite selection boys, we got a pretty healthy group of coaches out there, and I'm pleased to make the introduction. With Coach Kim spearheading the overall program on the boys, we have assistant coach Dominic Gadia, Jason Cunliffe, Ryan Kidigwa, Noah Bamba, Logan Conception, goalkeeper coach who is Ross Awa, Sean Evan, and the equipment manager being J.R. Campo. For the under 17 boy, we have head coach Jason Cunliffe, who joined up with us, and he's being supported by the assistant coach of Marlene Evan, Ryan Kidigwa, and goalkeeper coach Johan Nozel, and equipment manager J.R. Campo. Under 19, or what we call the also under 20 Manhoven. This is the head coach is Carl Dodd, supported by Dominic Gadia and Shane Healy, with the goalkeeper coach Johan Nozel and J.R. Campo. So now that we've got an idea where we're at with all of our staff, now let's take a quick look at what's actually took place in June. You know, a lot of times you don't see the behind the scenes, you only see what's out on the field. So what we did in June before we started up, we did an orientation with our GFA staff, orientation with the coaches, orientation with you guys, the parents and the players. And we constantly, continually to improve our process to make sure that safety and hygiene is always first and is constantly ongoing. We also continue the dialogue to stay in communication, staying on top of the updates with the public health guidance memo and the executive orders, and also try to continue to do the dialogue, monitoring the athletes, the coaches, and the staff as far as their health and their comfort level for being at the facility. And of course, we did the survey, which is across the board, so that we can have a better assessment and a pulse as to whether we're moving in the right direction or we need to work in some areas, and I'll cover that in a minute. Last but not least is implementing new approaches, and that is what I call the what if. So meaning if we had the what if scenario that green light is on, what can we do in this phase? or if we have a bottleneck in a process or, in a approach, what can we do to make it better? So it's always trying to find the optimal solution to progress forward. But I want to show you the next slide just to kind of have an understanding what we at GFA are looking at when it comes to talking about the elite and the national team. So this is the volume that we're working with right now. There's a lot of pros and cons in what I'm seeing here. As you can see, we have 3 columns. And what it is this is the breakdown in the first column, which is your athlete attendance. So what we've done is we've been monitoring all of the attendance. So on an average, this is the number that we see on a given training day ever since we started. So we're already in 1 month milestone of training. And so when we did a survey, I wanted to see, did we get 100% response? And this is the result that we have. So we were pretty close, pretty spot on, and I'm satisfied with the cooperation. So thank you very much. And the last column is the roster. So this is the area that it has some concern, but then it's okay given the circumstances because, we said training is not mandatory. It is to make sure that we bring people back in at a comfort level. But at this point, there is a concern because if you take a look at the total numbers of athletes that we work with in training if it wasn't a pandemic mode, there would be 259 athletes that we'd be working on a weekly basis. But we only see 49% out in training for the last month. In a way, it's good because we didn't bite off more than we can chew to where we can ease in how we set up the process, how we're able to coach, how we train, do the baseline metric. But now as each week goes by, it's going to start getting a little concerning because athletes that are coming to training are getting fitter and they're getting touches on the ball. So they're going to be advancing that probably at a faster rate than those that are not at training, even though these athletes may be doing training at home, and which is fine. And I hope that's the case, but we're worried about the gap getting wider apart. So our next assignment will be to try to research on a one-to-one basis for the ones that are not coming to training. What would it take for them to feel comfortable, or what can we do to get creative, think outside of the box to make sure that those athletes don't fall further behind? So that will be our project in the next go around, but this is a number that we're going to be monitoring for a little while. So let's quickly take a snippet on what are the strengths that we have received from all of the survey. And I like to just point out a few things, which I think is kind of impressive because it was a gauge or a baseline of what we're working really well and what isn't working well. So we base out of all the different process that we do in training, the one that ranked the highest in scores is the screening, coaching personnel, and the arrival protocol. They said that the ratings were pretty high for orientation and metrics. When I talk about metrics, this is the physical measurement of each individual athlete, like how flexible are you, how strong are you, what's your endurance and your speed and so forth. We're happy with those, and we're pleased that we ranked pretty high with that, and that gave us a lot of reassurance that we were on the right track. When we switch over to parent comfort level with our entire operation, out of the rating of 5.0, on an average between the score that we got from the elite and the score that we got from the national, the average came out to 4.48, and we felt that that was pretty high and it was acceptable, and it was good to hear. And from the player's point of view, same concept, taking the average, came out to 4.52 out of 5. So we're definitely on track, and we're going to keep the momentum going. If we can close the gap and get a perfect 5, that would be amazing. What was highlighted as a strength in more cases is how we emphasize on safety measurement and the priority on health. And while we're focusing on trying to get the athlete back into shape before we lunge into just playing. So a lot of kudos was given to us. I know there was one feedback where they really felt strongly about how we paid attention to the little details and making sure that you're stretching right, you're hydrating right, and then you cool down just so that they don't go home and get sore. And so we're going to continue to make sure that we look out for the best interest for the athlete each session. So So let's switch over to the areas of focus and improvement. So when we receive areas of focus or areas to improve, we kind of take a look at this, that this is observation that were seen. But when we point these things out, it was kind of surprising that somebody would say, for example, yeah, but you know what, when we sit down against the wall to change out, we're not sitting 6 feet. And it's like, that's where I'm going to have to say, well, you could have done something about that. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. But let me just show some of the areas that we need to focus on and improve. And obviously, that's the exit protocol. Number one, we are noticing that there are lack of social distancing in the parking lot, and people are leaving without the mask when they should be wearing the mask. And we've been trying to work on that. It is improving, but it was noted. Driving out of GFA, which a request was made to open up the south gate so that it would prevent them having to make the left turn. And obviously, we were finding out that traffic is being backed up. So by the way, the exit protocols is one of the lower rating, and it's really just because of the traffic flow. The last one was sanitizing upon exit. So what we've been experiencing is that we have coaches assigned to make sure that leads in groups. And when that happens, sometimes the coaches get caught up that they can't supervise the players going out. What happened is they're not washing their hands when they're leaving. And so now we're having a sanitization issue upon exit. So we're going to change up the process a little bit, and hopefully it's going to work a little bit better this week, and we're going to reevaluate this. The next item is training. Of course, they would like to see us move away from what we've been doing for the last month, and trust me, we all do. We are monitoring the progress of the island cases, and as you know, there was a spike, and that really raised an issue for us because we've always said after 1 month we would try to progress. Because of the July 4th weekend that just came and went, we were concerned that there might be a spike, and we wanted to sit and wait. So we're monitoring this on a as-needed basis. So that's why when we say whatever you hear today, things can change, and it's all going to be based on what's going on in the island. And it's really just because we're dealing with a lot of people. There's players, and there's coaches, and there's staff. And then, of course, when you think about where they go home, we have no control or knowledge of what they do when they leave the premises. So if we want to maintain safety and comfort, we need to make sure that we have to do our part. So just because the island said you can do this doesn't mean we need to. So the was to allow training games during training sessions, so small-sided games. And so we're kind of looking into that, and I'll talk more on that aspect. We're finding out it's starting to become a concern where we are finding that athletes are coming with inadequate supply of water. So they end up sharing, and that is the first no-no. And I think that happened and I know it happened on the day that they had to do a little bit more intense training, which caused them to want to have more water. They drank through water a little bit more faster. So what I would recommend and advise, it's better to be safe than sorry. So always have more water, and then if you have leftover, great, you can drink it on the way home. Last one is about the communication. We know that there's areas that we need to work on, and we're going to highlight how we're going to adjust those. And that's just making sure that we have clear communication and the way the channel is being outputted, and how we also address any questions or clarification that parents or players may have towards us. So I'd like to show one part of the result in the survey, which is really talking about the rating of the training session. So I thought that was interesting, but it was predictable. How would you rate the training session for the elite? Well, this is the response that we have. It was very nice to hear that it was a very good way to start up. We were not at all surprised to see ready for more. What was also surprising is just keep in mind looking at the challenging and not challenged. If you look at the numbers in the elite, that told us that we were definitely on par with how we were laid out in our training session and how we're going to progress in that space. And knowing that we have no injuries that is to be recorded or noted or anything, and that told us that the athletes are moving along in a very positive direction. Now, moving to the national team has a slightly different feedback, but still, they rated pretty high for good for starting up. They definitely are ready for more. But what was surprising is the challenging. There were 11 people who thought that were challenging, but we think we know why that is. There's a crossover in athlete from the elite to the national, so there's slightly different expectation. So we're going to continue to monitor that and kind of make sure that we keep all of the athletes moving in a pace to where we can close that gap from someone who's been highly fit to someone that's just trying to get back into it. So we're going to try to close those gaps, and hopefully we'll see a good result after that. So let's jump over to summaries, which is tips, pointers, and reminders. So when I point this out, I want you guys to understand that what is being presented is not just for parents and players. I say that this is for all athlete, parent, coaches, and staff. We all have to do our part, and I want to make sure that that's clear. First things first is self-accountability and education, which is truly understanding the virus. And the reason why I put that as a number one statement to put there is I have spoken to a colleague of mine that works out of CDC, and her response was, COVID-19 is here to stay. So we have to learn to understand it and be able to respect it to the point where until certain things is understood, but it really goes back to the person having self-accountability. That is the only way that we're going to be able to get through this. And I thought that kind of hit me home pretty well, only to understand that not only do the businesses out on the island have to do everything they can, but it's also the individuals themselves. So, they make decisions, they make choices. So if they have self-accountability, then everybody else should be able to move along and be able to get through this for the long haul. Along that line is being vigilant, having due diligence, do your part, and respecting others, and remaining calm and patient. And what I look at that aspect is some people are comfortable and some people are not. And it's being able to respect one another spaces and making sure that if someone is comfortable but yet understands the contagiousness or the understanding of the virus, if that one person is not comfortable, then the person should really respect that and try to do their part to make sure that we continue to do a safe environment. And the next item is being careful with your surrounding and your whereabouts and avoid complacency. And this is really prevalent, what I have found, and why we have to be vigilant with our staff and our players and whatnot. We get too comfortable, and what happens is you forget who's around you. And so we need to make sure that we keep everyone safe. I only also say this is when the athletes and staff and coaches leave GFA, I'm asking them to please be aware of their surrounding and their whereabouts, because what they do outside could have an immediate impact of what happened to our facility, because it easily impacts a lot of people. And that's just anywhere really, but I just want to make sure that we point that out. It only takes one, and it's just that simple. It only takes one to shut down or rescind the activity, which will affect the development, affect our ability to continue and grow, and it affects the work for a lot of the staff that we have right now. And going to this last set of major points I want to share, and again, this is regarding everything, right? I want to share with you what is the importance of doing the attendance survey. There's a real importance of doing this attendance survey, and I hope that we've ironed out when you need to turn it in. And I'm going to show you some other tricks that will help you be able to keep everything in line. And we've actually done a lot of self-reflection on this as well. The importance of doing the attendance survey is we do have certain personnel that has to go through, understand what the coach's session will be. From that, have to make sure that all of the equipment that is going to be needed for that session is sanitized. So if we have a group of 25 players that is invited to come to the session, but guess what, only 10 committed to come. Why would we want to sanitize 25 sets of equipment when we only need to do 10? So there's a lot of time and effort that are being spent, and it takes so much time. I look outside my window every day and I see our personnel out there starting at 1 o'clock just to set up the field so that we can start our training session at night. So it's a lot of work, and you know, I have to say that we have to give kudos to these guys who do this every day, and this is an additional step from what they normally do. So hats off to them, and I hope you guys understand why we have to do the attendance survey every week. It is going to get easier, and I'll show you how and why. The next one, I have to say, I'm so sorry, no left turn, please. This is not only just to keep the traffic flowing, but it is for your own safety. There's been too many accidents that have happened there, and even though we have a right turn only sign there and we have people breaching, please don't breach. And unfortunately, we cannot open the south gate because we're trying to keep the facility contained for safety reasons. So try to keep that in mind. I know that they say, well, it's so much easier and shorter to make a U-turn. Well, that U-turn is the same distance as if you were to make a right turn to get up to the next U-turn. So it just take the moment to make a right-hand turn and then make your U-turn if you want to go back down on Harmon Loop Road. This one, the major point is, you know, we understand that players need to be motivated. You know, they're probably getting tired of the drill, but our focus is we need to get you fit first. We can't just jump in and we still need to work on your fitness. We're going to try to get you back up on your fitness because then you can really maximize your training games and all of the other tools and sessions that we're going to develop. But the first things first is we want to make sure that you don't get injured. So we have to progress and get back to this. Keep in mind, we've been down for 3 months. Granted, you may be out there playing around, kicking the ball, but it may not be at the pace or level that we're trying to get you ready for. So we hope you'll be patient with us. Last but not least, I want to make sure that we all take the appreciation to everybody. It took a lot of cooperation, collaboration with the parent, player, coaches, and staff to make all of this possible and to make sure that we can continue to come and do this session every day. So I want to be the first to say thank you all for working alongside with us and being patient with us. And I'm going to remind everybody again, we've got to hold ourselves and others accountable throughout the session. So if we see something that's not right, just politely say, you know, social distance or wear your mask, sanitize. Those are really the 3 real biggie that we need to keep everybody in line. So I'm going to switch back to the chat. If anybody has any questions from what I just presented already, before I go and talk about what to expect in July as far as training sessions and what's going to happen. I'll give you guys maybe a minute or two. All right, I guess none so far. We'll go ahead and get going so we can move forward. So what's happening in July? I think we've got some exciting times coming up, but again, it's all subject to change. If we have a spike come up or if there's an issue that happens along the way, and hopefully none of that will happen. And so let's cross our fingers. So what's happening in July? So our technical, I'm going to start with the technical department, which is they've been cracking at it. They're not only are they worried about what sessions they're going to put out on for the elite and the national team, they're already designing to provide clubs and schools with tools and guidelines to start up. That's in the works right now, and hopefully we'll get this wrapped up soon so we can share it with you guys through your clubs or from the school. We're working on developing video sessions as a resource tool to help the coaches in the clubs and as well as the school on how to develop the players. And this has already started last week, and it's really exciting, and I think it's going to be an excellent tool to get us going and working on the proper technique of doing all of the things like the kicking, heading, passing, shooting, the whole 9 yards. We're launching again the coaches education course. If we figured this is a good time as any. There's no excuses because there's no club, there's no games, there's no nothing. So maybe we can start reigniting the coaches to get their mind going and have them soak up learning a different tool. We're going to be increasing training sessions, and I will show the schedule here next. But again, it's going to be dependent on what's going on with the island and making sure that when we increase the training session, we're also changing the progression. Meaning instead of one ball to one player, we'll probably do the passing from player to player or shoot a long ball cross so they can work on their trap. There's going to be different features coming along. Then we're going to focus on we're going to continue to focus on individual skills and fitness. We have found that the technique on these players are still lacking from where they should be. So we're starting to really say, you know what, this is time to really focus on it before we go into small-sided or when we focus on the progression. But above all else, GFA will always lead on safety first. So until we are comfortable and safe and we know that this will be a good approach, then we will take on that path. So let me switch. Let's switch to another slide, so bear with me. Can somebody give me a quick thumbs up that you can see an Excel file? I think it's going to be about a minute. Are we good? Awesome. Thank you, Robert. So this is typically how we start plotting out our calendar for the national teams and the elite. So this is for the month of July, and obviously this is the date, and this is a different age group that we work with. So we just got through the July 4th weekend, and so what's happening is each age group will have 2 sessions a week. So we're just going to do this just for a tad bit while we're already in the planning stage. When you see this yellow line, this is the target for progression. We're switching up the progression, meaning we're going to change it up a notch. So what will happen is, again, if everything goes accordingly as we hope, training is now going to kick up to 3 times a week. And this is how we're going to allocate the field allotment and the time. So the one thing I do want to point out is we know that Liberation Day is coming up. And this is the one that we're most afraid of because we're afraid that we're going to see a spike and we're concerned with how we're going to do the progression. We will be monitoring this extremely close to make sure that everyone is safe, and we're asking everyone's cooperation to keep your athletes safe. And the same thing for us with our coaches, is making sure that they minimize their activity if they want to be able to continue. So that's the concept that we have. So this is all going to start increasing. And I'm going to show you another way of how you can keep track of all this information. This is for our internal purposes. So I just thought I'd share that with you. So I'm going to switch back to the slide. Maddie. And I believe here, I believe my new PowerPoint, my other PowerPoint is back up with you guys. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what's next. So what's happening in July, we now not only have our technical department that is cracking and getting busy and crunching away, getting creative on how we're going to do everything. Now we take a look at the competition, because I know some of you have already inquired, so I figure I'm going to touch upon the topic. The competition department, which oversees the league, And so what we've been doing is we have been doing this ever since lockdown. We constantly monitor, obviously, the status of the island and the authorization to proceed. We do a lot of research and we prepare guidelines on the what if we were to have a leak, what would that look like? So similar to what you see in our national training, putting those protocols and steps in place, how would that work for the league? This is still an ongoing discussion with several of our members, whether it be AFC, FIFA, or even here locally, is trying to make sure that we have an approach that will be acceptable by all. We are currently collaborating, we're doing research and collaborating with schools on how the school league will be operating their sport, because that has been a topic that's been raised just recently. So again, by the end of the day, GFA will always heed on safety first on every step of the way. So these are the what ifs that we're looking at, trying to get everything mapped out. And as soon as things happen, we should be ready to say we're comfortable with this because we've been working on this for quite a while. So that's that bit. Going to the next slide, which I think is the most important slide for everybody, and that's the communication protocol. I do want to first say, on the behalf of GFA, and for me personally, I apologize for any confusion or frustrations you may have. It has been challenging in some areas, and some areas of the communication is working just fine. So when we started taking a look at why was this group having no issues and this group was, we figured, you know what, we're just going to have to take a look at the whole process, and we're going to start on a clean slate so that we can get off on a good start going forward. And so also understanding the communication, how does it work, so that there's no misconceptions or assumptions or cross information and things like that. So the communication, the outgoing communication protocol. So this is going from GFA out to parents and players. So this is the four mediums that we will be using on how we're going to communicate with the parents and the players in regarding to the national team or the elite. So obviously, if there was a technical department announcement, or if it's coming from a GFA management announcement, it won't get disseminated to technical administrator, which is China. China will be in the driver's seat to make sure that this gets pushed out through these four channels. So of those four channels or a medium, one of them will be the email to the parent. The second one will be a WhatsApp chat to the parent. And the other one will be to the website. And the last one is the coaches chat. So what happened is this will put everybody in the know. And so when we go to the WhatsApp chat for the parent, it will be now a broadcast group, because we have found that, when we post schedules, or when we post like the PowerPoint or the documents that you need to read through, it gets drowned out because all of the chats are coming in, and then we find some parents who haven't been able to keep up with the chat is asking all these questions. So it's getting, on both sides, it's very time consuming and it can be annoying. So we want to figure out how do we eliminate that from both ends, so to make it a little bit better. The broadcast group will still be disseminated as a group chat, but if a parent wants to chime in for a clarification or anything, you can respond, but you will only be responding to the technical administrator, meaning nobody will see this. So it's a private chat, but we have an internal discussion. Should that clarification need to be clarified through the chat, it will then come through the WhatsApp chat to the parent for clarification, and everybody will see that solid. They don't have to worry about scrolling to see where everything is at. So we're hoping that this will be a good feature, but I'm going to show you one other one that's I think will probably eliminate a lot of the confusion. It's the website. We've done some modification on the website, and I'm going to do a quick demonstration on that after I go through the flow. So the next one is the coaches chat. So basically, the chat, which is the athletes and the coaches chat, which China is not involved with. So she has to utilize the coaches in order to pass that information on. So we're trying to streamline that process to make sure that it's timely. And we understand that, keep in mind, guys, all of this is not going to happen overnight. So we're going to keep massaging it through till we get the routine down, right? And that's what we're hoping for. So this is how communication will go out. Now let's talk about incoming communication. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we go to the incoming communication, I just want to share with you all of the chats that we're having to manage. And or will be set up, sorry, because I know the elite is only one group, but we will be breaking up into 4, but we realized we were not able to do so initially as I had promised the last time. And I'll explain why that is. And once we have the assignment given out and get all that information, we should be able to set all of this up in a relatively good turnaround time. So with the coaches chat, we will have it broken up into 3 different areas. So it will cover the elite, then you have the men's and the women. The elite group will be broken up into its own group. So because that was a pattern that we saw where, and I'm going to use this as an example, the color of the uniform that they need to use is different from the boys to the girls, and it seemed to confuse one or the other. So we figured, let's break this up. The women's program is probably out of this entire chat are the most stable. It has been maintained pretty well. We're working on the men's side, which I think is coming around a little bit better, but it's just a matter of getting the coach to post, the coach or the manager to post the information in a reasonable, timely manner. So we're going to continue to work on that one. So this is the incoming communication and how the flow will work. And hopefully this will give you a better perspective as to how it's going to be handled as far as addressing your concerns or addressing your complaint or addressing for clarification and so forth. If the parents or the player have a question, so let's start on the top. You can do it in an email, but it needs to go to the technical admin. It really shouldn't ultimately go to the coaches unless it's very, very obvious. But I highly recommend that get things channeled to China on the technical admin email address. And that's at technical@theguamfa.com. That email will then be viewed. So she will have to take a look and say, okay, what is this topic about? Who is really the point of contact for this matter? And what is the urgency of the email? And if it's something that she can clarify, which is really coming from an administration point of view, she will respond. If it's something that is out of her scope that should be handled by the director, the technical director or assistant technical director, or maybe a head coach, then she will write the email back to the person who wrote it, acknowledging it, but copy the person saying, I have included the technical director who will respond back to you within a day or 2. So from that point, that technical director will then respond. So we're going to try to make sure that we close the topic properly, and that should help. We're finding out that people are using their connection to try to get information, and we're finding out that it gets lost in translation, or it gets misunderstood, or it doesn't get answered at all. So we want to make sure that we channel everything through the right way, and we're asking for cooperation in that area. And if we decide to use the WhatsApp chat for the parent, which I've already explained is the broadcast group, so if you decide to respond through the chat, it will automatically go to the technical administrator, who can then respond to your inquiry. If it's the player who is responding to the chat that was posted by the head coach or team manager, then the head coach or the team manager has to also determine, can I answer this with information I know? If not, then go to the technical administrator to get clarified, and then we wrap it up with a proper response. If the head coach or the team manager does have the answer, they respond directly to the player. So this will all be shared with everybody. And again, we're going to continue to tweak the process a little bit, and we will find other solutions to possibly minimize the workload that we're having to do from the administrative side. But just understand that we have, as you can see, we have a lot of different groups that we're managing at this time. So now, why does coach-player chat only? Meaning, why is it only just the player and not the parent? Well, this was designed with the intent of creating, this is the national team environment that we're creating. To be part of the national team environment or the elite, we're trying to create an environment and standards that is really about the athlete. And so what we're trying to enhance is getting the interaction between the athletes and the coaches, because these athletes need to have that responsibility and decision-making, because that's what they do on the field. They need to make decisions rather than being told what to do, or rather than let somebody else do it for them. So we want to make sure that we're instilling the responsibility and the decision-making, and also communication skill. I know some of us are like, the communication could be improved. Well, this is the platform for them. Now, we also want them to learn learn to do it on their own accord and grow over time, even if they make a mistake. That's part of the journey. And we know it's not going to happen overnight, but we know that there are times where we have to get a little bit more firm. And that's only maybe because it's been a repeated situation and they should have gotten it figured out by now. I know that some parents are still reserved because the timing of the information may not be appropriate, and we are still looking into that. How do we fix it? So for the player to tell the parent, hey, I need to be here at this time, but it should be well in advance for you to be able to work around that. We are listening to you guys, and we are looking into the situation. How can we better improve our communication and the planning? So the last couple items is that we want to make sure that we instill the culture of success with successful attitude. So we need to create that environment for them so that the attitude is appropriate and acceptable. When we have, upset parent, that doesn't necessarily put a good reflection on the child or the athlete to emulate, because that's not what we're trying to emulate. We want the athlete to have a positive attitude, whether it was the consequences or not. They have to grow within their own. And last but not least is the self-accountability. We want them to have accountability for themselves, because this is a life skill that we're instilling on them, not only on the field, but also off the field. So we ask for your understanding and cooperation. We know that it's been trying times in the last few months, probably for some of you since last year, because we started doing this for over a year and a half. Gosh, time flies. We will work through that, but also understand what our purpose is. And we hope that you can reinforce and help us through that and have that communication with your athlete, find out what's going on rather than having to force to get the phone and read. But if you notice with the way that we're communicating, so how we push out to the players should be communicated to the parents. So you will know, but what we're asking is that try to encourage the athlete to take the action and see it through rather than having to do it for the athlete, except for when it is really the parent action item. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope you guys understand that. And we're going to continue to work with our staff as well and the coaches to understand that how important these communication are and to be realistic, reasonable, right? Being reasonable. So let's go to mindful tips. So when we talk about communication, one of the things that have been popping up, and again, this mindful tip is not only just to the players and the parents, this is for everybody. So again, coaches, staff, parents, and players. We're saying that please read all the attachments and the information that is provided to you, because a lot of times we kind of are in awe that when we post a 20-page document and we get a total acknowledgement, hey, great, or a response that like there's no way this person could have read this. So we want to make sure that everyone reads the attachment. We've had a situation where a question gets popped and it's like, well, if you read the attachment, everything that you need to know is there, even the question you're asking. It's not to be rude or it's not to be any criticizing. It's just trying to ask for respect and trying to look at the document that we have put the energy and effort to put together to answer everything that you could possibly need. And for everyone, for me, is to make sure that we have clarity and it's meaningful and it's to the point rather than being cluttered. I know there's so much information we've been sharing with you, but we've been trying to keep it to the point, but then we'd be the devil's advocate saying, okay, what kind of question would they ask? And so we try to cover all our bases, but try to get to the point. Being timely, which is the submission and the response. So obviously, like with the attendance survey, we don't want to have parents be upset because they didn't get it in on time or anything, but we're giving you enough time to be able to do it, and we're settling down to the point where you should be able to click on the link. And I'll show you how. Again, we think these tools that we've set up will make it a little bit easier for you, and we hope you'll agree. Being respectful and constructive kind of goes back to everything. This is such trying time for everybody with the adjustment that we're making, the pandemic that's in our way. We've got to figure out how to go about this without losing our cool and being patient. We appreciate the feedback and concerns that are being expressed, but it's how you express them is where we're asking if you can be a little bit more constructive so that we can actually address the issue. What I often tell people, especially when athletes get a red card and they get really, really upset, or a coach is really upset, I think you can put it in writing, but keep the emotions out. Because nobody wants to read the emotions because it just drowns out your facts. So that's just tip that I like to share. Avoid assumptions and cross information. So I know a lot of the parents and the players try to help each other out, but if you're assuming, don't share that information. Or if you're taking something that's from one age group to the next, that information may not be applicable to the next age group. So before you post it or share it, make sure that it's clear that it's for that age group. So we don't have the confusion, and we're going to have to kind of clarify that. So hopefully that helps you out there. And, you know, a couple more things is what happens in the past may not be applicable to today. And the only reason why I say that is because we do hear about, oh, you know, the last time you guys did this. And we have been trying to, it's ever evolving. We're changing constantly. We're constantly improving. And, you know, if something always becomes a hiccup, you know, even though if we had it perfect at one point, well, guess what? Something may come in and just mess things up. And we're just going to have to go back and adjust. So we only look at the here's and the now. So if this is an issue that's going on now, then let's go ahead and address those issues and move on. If we're bringing up something in the past, there's not much that we can do to fix the past, but only grow from it. But one of the things that we're finding out is it's like for me personally, it's like if I'm hearing about it for the first time now, then why is it I'm hearing about it now, not back then? So that's been an internal discussion with our group is how do we avoid that happening? And so we're hoping that through the level of effort that we put in already for the last couple of weeks, it will improve. And our focus with GFA is establishing that national team and the elite select team environment and standard. We want to hold that up. So the other better way to paint that picture is think about the schools. You know, they have policy and they have regulation. They hold their standards, and parents have to work with that, and parents have to abide by that. But what I do want to point out is, if you notice the keyword I'm using is the national team and the elite team. That's the environment and standard we hold, and it's very high. It is not the same standard that we hold when it comes to dealing with the league, you know, because it's a different target. So we have very high standards, and we want to keep that standard for the athlete because they are representing Guam, and we want to make sure that we have them ready to go. And of course, with everything else, mindful tip is when all else fails, is try to use common sense. If things don't work out there, and if bottom out is if all else fails, you don't get the response or you don't get the necessary closure, please email me. I will work through it and help you through it, and as well with our staff to see how we can make sure that our operation is moving to keep everybody satisfied. Now, this is the greatest part. I'm excited to share this with you guys. So we've got our website that's already gone through a makeover. I don't know if you kind of noticed it, but it's gone through a makeover and it's been getting all the cool features in it. We added a new feature on there, thanks to Jill. So what this is going to do is on the homepage, you're going to be able to see a highlight daily event, which will show you what's going on for the day. But then we also have a calendar, meaning you can look up any month and find the calendar. But for right now, we only have up to July. We're still working on filling up the rest of this calendar. But this will allow you to give you a forecast so you can plan ahead what to expect. But keep in mind, this calendar is subject to change. We're going to work on a couple other features as well. But this is going to now become the point of reference. So what we're going to be doing is to give you the best analogy that I have is, for most of you that are familiar with the Robbie Weber, with how our league schedule works, we do not email schedule because for years and years, we always have the mix up of what version are we working off of. And people are looking at the wrong schedule off of the email. So we said no more email. Everything is on the web. If we put up a new schedule, we will notify you to check out the web. So that's how we're going to be doing this. We're going to start weaning people to not rely on all of the information in email and the WhatsApp. We're going to say, hey, check out this information that you need that's related to your group, and it will be on the website. So what happens is it is static. It's in one place, and it's a go-to point. Everything is streamlined there, and if it gets updated, you will know that it will be there. So we think it's going to be a great feature for everybody. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to do a quick demo so you can kind of see how to look for these things. So I hope you're finding this helpful, and switching. I am now going to share the website, our GFA website now, and hopefully you'll find great information on this one. So can I get a thumbs up? Are we good? I feel like, oh, I know what I did. All right. All right, this is the homepage of the GFA. And as you can see, we've got all of our headers. But what you do on the homepage, if you scroll down, you'll see, my mouse just went haywire. You will see upcoming event, right? Now in this upcoming event, this is, as you notice, it'll show you today's and it'll start rolling into tomorrow. So this is going to be what is going on at GFA. So for every training session, you should be able to see this and say, all right. But let's just say I want to check out what's going on with the under 17 women's training. I need to get a little bit more information because it's saying that training is at 5 and this is tomorrow. If you click on that, it's going to go pop up in the screen and it's going to tell you what your training session is, what's your dress attire, information about your attendance survey that need to be turned in. If you have any problem, we're giving you China's email. Then the attendance survey is right here on the link. So you can't mistake it for which link you're going to click on. It also tells you when you need to show up, when the gate opens and closes, and so forth. So as we start shifting gears and training is going to start going up or hours are going to start changing, this is where we can get all that information. But I'm also going to show you another way to look at this. So if we start, I'm going to do another demonstration on the home page. If you dial in on the home page and you just want to see the calendar, you can also go to that link. And you guys are in for a treat today because last Friday's group only got to see the first 2 weeks. They didn't see the entire month. You're getting a sneak peek. So, but this is what happened, why we want people to start going to the website, because we're going to start loading and utilizing the website to make it a very helpful resources for everybody. So as you notice, we're posting all of this stuff. So if you, again, remember how I did the demonstration on the U17 girls, right? The training session. So here you can kind of take a peek. If you click on it, it's going to pop up with the same information I just demonstrated to you. And it's going to show you all the information you need. So we really think this will be a great feature for everybody. And I think this was probably one of the most positive feedback that we got from Friday's session briefing. And hopefully you guys will find that the same. So I'm going to stop there. And we're getting ready to go to the last bit. I'm cracking up on my own screen. Sorry about that, guys. All right. So now we're going to talk about player profile. So with all of in order for us to fix all of our communications and also to make sure that we get the right contact and getting all of the applicable documents on file, we are going to have to start from ground zero. So my first thing that I want to say is sorry to those of you that feel that you turned in all your documents, your player profile, but we are going to have to start from scratch. And we think that this approach will be a lot easier. It's going to capture everything. It's going to make our files a lot easier. And it, to make sure that we get the communication correct the next time. And that next time, hopefully, will be the only time. And we can be able to manage it from there. So what are some of the changes on the profile? We're asking that all athletes, meaning all elite and all national players, must complete the new profile. And they need to make sure that the information is correct and is accurate and is complete. This is to make sure that our communication tools are established based on the information that is provided to us. And we are putting a deadline from all athlete profile to be submitted by Wednesday. The sooner we have everybody, the sooner we can correct all of the communication. I'm going to quickly demonstrate to I'm going to walk you through the job form, which is the platform we're using to fill out the national team and elite player profile. So even though it says in the national team, this is also the elite, and because that file will continue. The one thing I do want to make clear is at any point in time that this information changes, you are obligated to make sure that we get the updated information where needed. And so to start out with, this is a very straightforward form where we ask for you to fill it, put your birth year. This is all on athletes in the very beginning. So this is just for us to create a file that we can recall real quickly by birth year and as well as by last name. A standard question that we're going to ask. So if we ask for height and weight, I'm definitely not going to tell you my weight. Right, I'm going to stop using my mouse. It's not cooperating at this point. Oh my God. Yeah, I think my wireless mouse just gave out. All right. Sorry about that. So you'll notice that we're going to be asking for all of the information that you need. And when you get into the email, we're asking that you have to rekey your email address again to make sure that there are no typos. And this will actually be very, very helpful because in the past with the player profile, people were handwriting it, and sometimes we cannot get clarity on the handwriting. So hopefully by doing it this way, this will eliminate the potential chance of getting the wrong email address. So when we speak about, the home address and the mailing address, we just need to get all of that information in case we need to send something out. This is where it says closest international airport hub. Obviously for you guys here in Guam, just type GUM. But this is really more key to our senior players who are playing abroad, like the Mattel and the Masakata. So those that are in colleges that we can recall, we just need to know what that airport hub is. I know that they'll be migrating elsewhere over time, but that's where at least we have a starting point. Then the next one is the school information. So just to make it clear, this is a one form capture all. So what we say is any athlete that are going to school, whether it's middle school, high school, colleges, you need to key in this information. It's very important because when we do a request for leave, to have an excuse, we have all the information on file. If this is, let's just say a senior player that's working and is done with school, all we ask that you just put in the school name, NA, not applicable. Then that way we won't have to second guess if you purposely skipped over the question. And so by putting NA, it just tells us you are out of school and you're not a student anymore. And again, it's going to ask a lot of questions, but some of them it's not required. We're leaving that with you guys, but we will sometimes have to ask you to come back and complete it if it's incomplete. The player work information kind of works the same way. If it is a student not working, just type NA so we know that that's the space that we don't have to follow up. But if we have an athlete that's working, please fill in this information. And again, it's in order for when we get ready for competition, if we need to get an excuse, a request for leave, we can actually do this quickly. Club information, same situation here. We need, in order for us to communicate, this is really more predominant to those that are in colleges or is signed up on a pro league or semi-league, where we need to work with the coaches to get leave. And even in colleges, some of these head coaches are not understanding the guidelines of being able to release their athlete to be able to come back and compete so that the athlete can represent the country. So if we can create a rapport with the coaches, that would enable us to be able to handle that. And then we come into the parent guardian contact information. So obviously this is where we need information on the parent, and we have to have at least one parent, preferably both the mother and father, or the guardian, but it must be filled out. But this is specifically for those that are 18 and below. And this is the bit that I think is also crucial. This point of contact, this is the page that will enable us to fix the communication, whether it be an email or the chat. So what I want to point out to you is you're going to see in the very, very first section, it's going to say phone number of the player. We are asking, please be honest. If the player has a phone number and an email, please list it. We know that there are some players that do not have phone. Then you can put the first person, whether it be the father, the mother, the guardian, whichever it is, can be that person. But what you will need to do is in this note section, you will have to key in does not have phone. So that way we know that the phone number should be the same as the next person that's getting the information. So the first one is required, and it must be the player. Please, we will be cross-checking, so please do not use that as a way to put yourself in that space when, again, going back to creating the interaction between the athletes and the coach. So that player phone number will be the establishing the coaches to the player chat. Then, of course, the phone number 2, email number 2, and so forth, that could be the parent. And then the phone number 3, that could be the other parent as well. Or if you have another guardian that is helping you with transportation with the kids. So these are ways for us to be able to make sure that, but you are going to have to be the one to tell us who is getting the information. We have already had a situation where in an email, the email is going to the father, but when we realized what was going on in WhatsApp, it was going to the mom. And it was, even though the information was the same, but it was somewhat disconnected because the email was toward to the boy, but the WhatsApp was toward to the girl. And they do have a son and daughter. So we want to make sure that whatever we put on the email is the same information we put on the chat, and it's going to the same person that is the point of contact. Hopefully we can clear this up. The next item is the medical information. This is a very important bit, which all I'm going to say here is please do not bypass this, and it won't let you. We have made this a mandatory field. However, what we have done is we do ask whether you are insured, whether you're a self-pay or you're insured. If you do have insurance, please tell us what your insurance is. This is becoming a sensitive topic for all of us, and we want to make sure that we have all of these information on file. And of course, any allergies or health consideration is also critical, especially in times like this with the pandemic, and of course with competition. We need to know, it needs to be disclosed. Especially with those, like if in asthma, you're taking butyrols or some medication, because that could affect the doping control if they were to go off and compete. We need to have all of this disclosed. The waiver form, we have 2 different waiver forms. Obviously, this is a standard waiver form, which we've embellished just to kind of, because these things have happened over the years where we need to make sure that it's all covering the aspect of the athlete, the parent, and the players and boards and so forth. So please take the time to read through that. And we've also made it to where you can sign it online. The first one is the player and the second one is the parent. And then the next one is the COVID-19 waiver. I know most of you have turned it in because that was mandatory in order to return to training. But in order for us to catch all in one document electronically, we are asking that you resubmit this. So it's all synchronized in the athlete file. So again, we apologize for any duplications already, but it is for the sole purpose of getting us off to a good start. Now, when you come into the COVID-19, it's going to ask for initials. So this is just, just key in the letters of initials that you normally would assign if you were to do it by ink. And then it'll ask you to sign on the bottom as well. Once that is all set, you have an option to, when you get ready to submit, I highly recommend that you save this to your computer or your phone, so that way you have it with you. Then that is before you submit your form, okay? If you need to go back to fix anything, you can go back and you can save it before you submit it. So whatever you do, just make sure you have a copy for yourself. And if you submit form, it automatically goes to the technical administrator. So that's that bit, and I think we are about ready to wrap this up and open up for questions. And if there are any questions at this point, I will be ready to answer them. I could tell you some of the questions that popped up last Friday. Let me see if I can recap them for you. Well, obviously, one of them is like, are we going to increase our training? I've already answered that. Yes, we will be increasing training, but it's all dependent on the status of the cases. The other one was the goalkeeper training session. That will be addressed with the goalkeeper coach, how are they going to increase their training. Again, it's the progression that we're bathing in. The next other question was, again, was about the coach-player chat. It was not really a question, which is more of a stating the concern that we need to do a better job in placing that communication to the player earlier, should it require the parent to make rearrangement for like ground transportation and stuff like that. And we understand that. We're going to look into that a little bit more. I wish I had samples so I can actually see what's going on. I'm not on every single one of these chats. I'm only on selected few. I'm not on the player coach chat. And so if things pop up, you can let us know, but let the technical department try to solve that before you raise it above. So it's just kind of part of the respect protocol. Other than that, people really like the website feature. They think that's going to be a great start, keeping the information in one place where they can just go to. We're plotting all the events in there. And I'm going to tell you guys, you're going to start seeing, when the league starts up, you're going to start seeing it being posted there. Courses are being posted there. So this will help anybody who's interested in getting involved with GFA, because it's going to be right on the calendar. So I don't see any questions being posted here. So that means I probably answered all of your concerns and questions, which is a great thing. So without further ado, I don't want to hold up any more of your time because it's already been almost an hour and a half. And I thank you very much. And be safe. Please be aware of your surroundings. And most especially with Liberation Day coming up, that is something that we're watching very carefully. So have a great evening. Thank you. Be safe.